right, this third video here on the eighth day. And I couldn't help myself. The eighth day. You ever heard of the eighth day? What's your reference for the eighth day? And on the eighth day, right? And on the eighth day, what? I know, you probably went the eighth day Center for Justice, Harvest. What do they call it? When you free all of the debts, right? What's that they call that? There's this thing that they do where on the eighth year, all of the debts are forgiven, and you're supposed to live on what you've done the year before. You develop a surplus, you forgive all the debts, you release all of the people that have obligation. Jubilee. There you go. Remember the Jubilee movement? Around the time that they were concerned about Y2K, they had Y2K and they had Jubilee, right? When I was growing up, there was this t-shirt shop. It's in Q-Town. It's a little tiny town right outside of Quantico Marine Base, right there on the Potomac River. You go in there, they have this t-shirt shop. I know. Don't worry, I'm acknowledging it. This t-shirt shop, you go in there, you look up there and you see all of these different emblems for all of the different units. It says something, which ones you remember, which ones you identify, right? When you grow up in that environment, you see this all the time. But then they had a couple of shirts. They had two that I always remember. One was a shirt and the slogan was, "It's hard to soar like an eagle when you're working with a bunch of turkeys," right? And then you got the little comic effect. The other one said, if I recall correctly, and on the eighth day, God created the Marine Corps, and then the gates of hell opened up. Now, when you see this as a young person, it might mean one thing, but 25 years down the road, it means something else. But I'm going to honor something that just happened. Why? Because it's the eighth day, and I wanted to know, what would I open up to in this book? And I just opened up to a acknowledgement of a man named Henry Morgenthau. Who's Morgenthau? Right? Who's Morgenthau? Well, I guess it depends on where you're coming from, because Michael Harrington, in his discussions on socialism in the post-World War II era, is talking about one Morgenthau. But just today, before I got there, I was thinking about another Morgenthau. In July of 2019, it is alleged, a man by the name of Robert M. Morgenthau died. Who was Robert M. Morgenthau? Well, according to this book I found when I was on the street, Morgenthau owned an apple orchard. His family had an apple orchard right outside of New York City, where he would return to after work. It was said that when he went to work, he always had a bowl of apples from his orchard. He had different kinds of apple trees. So if you went into his office to talk to him, you'd find a bowl and there'd be all kinds of different apples. Apparently, Mr. Morgenthau was a prosecutor in New York City over a court that was notoriously involved with prosecuting organized crime. They're people. It might do something at one stage in their life, get some skills, maybe even a little later say, you know what, I'm going to do something else. And they do it. If you're going to be a person like that, it really helps if you have a Morgenthau around, right? Now, some may say, well, one named reference, especially evaluated relative to the other named reference, might give somebody pause, right? But in the United States, there's this thing. It's called corruption of blood. We don't have it. If you engage in corruption of blood, this is not American. You do not get to say to somebody, because of something your father did, your grandfather did, and we get to punish you. We get to chastise you. We get to revile you. We get to enslave you. We get to torment you. We get to make you pay for what we judge to be their crimes to society unless you agree to co conspire with them determinately and actively. You don't get to use somebody's kid to get to them in America and get away with it. And if you came over here and you tried to recruit somebody to do it for you, or you lied and said you were an American and you were going to do it yourself, there are consequences. Even if you think that somebody's the biggest gangster on the planet, even if you think they're the biggest traitor on the planet, even if they're a goddamn sex trafficking rapist, you don't get to go after their fucking kids. It's just the way it is in America. Happy Memorial Day.